At my grandfather's funeral, my mother stood up during the eulogy and said, "I need everyone here to know who this man actually was." I was standing in the second row at my grandfather's funeral when my mother stood up. The pastor had just started the eulogy. He was talking about generosity, family values, and the example my grandfather supposedly set for everyone around him. Then my mother pushed her chair back. The sound echoed through the chapel. At first, I thought she was going to the restroom. Instead, she walked straight to the front. The pastor stopped talking. My mother took the microphone from the stand and looked around the room. My grandfather's friends were there, neighbors, church members, cousins I hadn't seen in years. Then she said, "I need everyone here to know who this man actually was." The room went completely silent. My grandfather, Frank, spent decades building a reputation as the perfect family man. He donated to charities. He volunteered at church. He helped organize community events. People loved him. The problem was that the version everyone knew wasn't the version we lived with. Growing up, my mother was terrified of him. Nobody outside the family knew that. Whenever people praised Frank, she would force a smile and change the subject. As kids, my sister Rachel and I never understood why. We only learned the truth years later. My grandfather controlled everything. Money, relationships, decisions. If someone disagreed with him, he punished them financially. My grandmother spent years asking permission before spending household money. My uncle David was pushed out of the family after refusing to work in my grandfather's business. My mother had it even worse. When she wanted to attend a college out of state, my grandfather threatened to stop supporting her completely. She stayed. When she married my father, he skipped the wedding. When they struggled financially, he offered help only if they agreed to his conditions. Everything came with strings attached, but nobody outside the family saw it. Because Frank was smart. He never lost his temper in public, never caused scenes, never gave people a reason to question him. At the funeral, my mother started telling those stories, one after another. No shouting, no crying, just facts, dates, letters, examples, things she'd stayed silent about for years. My Aunt Linda finally interrupted. "Mary, this isn't appropriate." My mother looked at her and asked, "Then when was I supposed to say it?" Nobody answered. The chapel felt uncomfortable. People avoided eye contact. Others listened carefully. When my mother finished, she handed back the microphone and returned to her seat. The service continued, but the mood had changed completely. Outside afterward, people stood in small groups whispering. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 3 weeks later, the family gathered for the reading of the will. That's when everything exploded. For years, my grandfather had promised his estate would be divided equally between his children. Instead, almost everything went to Linda. The house, the investment accounts, several properties. The estate was worth around $2,400,000. My mother received $10,000. David received nothing. There was even a letter explaining why. According to my grandfather, certain family members had disappointed him and didn't deserve more. Even after his death, he was still trying to control people. Linda acted surprised, but not surprised enough. David immediately suspected she knew about the plan. Within days, family members started comparing information. Then Rachel discovered property records showing that several assets had already been transferred into joint ownership with Linda years before. Nobody else knew. The deeper everyone looked, the stranger things became. Missing paperwork, conflicting records, financial transfers that raised questions. My mother hired an attorney. David hired one too. The legal process dragged on for months. Old emails surfaced. Financial records were reviewed. A clear pattern started to emerge. Linda hadn't simply benefited from the inheritance. She had spent years encouraging my grandfather's distrust of everyone else. She controlled access to him. She influenced decisions, and she positioned herself to receive the largest share of everything. The lawsuit lasted nearly a year. During that time, several people who attended the funeral contacted my mother. Some apologized. Others shared stories about dealing with Frank's controlling behavior. The image he spent years building slowly started to crack. Not because people attacked him, because they finally started comparing experiences. Eventually, the case ended in mediation. Linda didn't keep everything. A significant portion of the estate was redistributed. Not equally, but fairly enough for everyone to settle. The money helped, but that wasn't the biggest victory. The biggest victory was that the truth was finally out. A year later, I drove past my grandfather's old house. The property had been sold. A young family was moving in. Children were playing in the driveway. They had no idea how much family conflict had revolved around that house. I stopped at the traffic light and watched for a moment. Then the light turned green. The house was gone. The estate was settled. The secrets were exposed. And for the first time in my life, nobody in my family was living under Frank's control anymore.